By the way, real props to Heshi for all of us at PNG in particular. I don't think PNG would exist if not for Rbbn, in part because I had the opportunity to come to Rbbn meetings, usually as a speaker, but sometimes just as a fly on the wall, to enjoy people's company, and it gave us a sense of what's possible. And we did not have anything like it in Passaic, so Baruch Hashem, we did start. We do have a few PNG members here. I saw Michael before. Michael Schlager is here. Barry Ackerman is here somewhere, or was here. There he is, okay. Yaakov and Mickey are also in, they cross over between the lines. Those of you who are interested and not terribly far, Doug is here, Doug Dubitsky, also in our group. So anyone who lives in the general area that wants to come to an additional group to grow your business even further, we do have a one person per industry policy. It's really more of a one person per lane policy. So for example, we have multiple attorneys in the group, but each attorney does have a specific area of focus and expertise that allows them to be the go-to in their respective domain. So if you're joining our group, you become the person for all referrals in your specific expertise, in your specific area of service or product. Okay, that is an added benefit because then you kind of rise to the top. And I do try my best personally to share our people to any chats, anyone asks for an attorney that does this, an accountant that does that, whatever it is. I'm constantly dropping names in the chat because I want to make sure that our people are getting out there beyond the proverbial Dalit Amos of Passaic. We have people from Teaneck, we have people from Muncie, we have people from Fair Lawn and other communities that join us, so you're certainly welcome to do that. We meet once a month at the beautiful Brookhaven Mall, at the Lighthouse Cafe. Dinner is great, just ask Johnny. Even though there was no pizza, there was still great breakfast, and he enjoyed it tremendously. So we take care of you, and we certainly would be interested in having you grow further. If you're interested, you can take out your phone. I'll quickly give you my number, and you can text me for more information. Some people have already done that tonight. If you're interested, no pressure, of course. It's 212, I'll say it twice, 212-470-6139, text or WhatsApp. One more time, 212-470-613, and then the number 9.
I do want to say one quick thing. I'm always just echoing off what Ashley said. It's always fun when I buy an event that's majority a Yiddish event, and I introduce Johnny as my networking rabbi. Just a little bit of a twist, but he's definitely good at this. So I just want to say thank you, public thank you for helping me behind the scenes and many other people. Continue all the amazing things you do.
Thank you, Mickey. Thank you, Baruch Hashem, as we say. So I have to say. Mickey, Heshi, dear friends for close to a decade, really welcomed me to Rockland County. I was with another institution, but people do business with people they like, know, and trust. Apple Bank is headquartered in New York, the largest privately held bank in New York. We have the best Heter Iska as well. We are KFI certified. And Mark Friedman, the manager right across the parking lot, he's on Main Street. And I wouldn't have got the honor to meet Yankee, the owner of Kosher Castle. I passed by this restaurant, and I say, it looks like a Burger King. It must have been a Burger King. And then Mark says, I want you to meet Yankee. We sit down. We have a lot of common things together. My family owned Italian restaurants. I prepped in the kitchen at 6 years old. 10 years old, I was peeling garlic with my grandparents in their Long Island Italian restaurant. Yankee shared his passion for food, his passion for the industry, and even we shared personal about our health and how we improved our health. And I'm down 30 pounds, and Yankee's down a good amount of weight too. Not to get too personal, but the truth is, networking and doing business together is Main Street. When you do business with another business owner on Main Street in your community, it affects the families, it affects everybody. We're here tonight on an idea. I talked to Yankee, you have a beautiful place. I have no doubt your flesh-in cuisine will be beautiful. And then I talked to Heshi. It's all thanks to Mark for the introduction. He knows Main Street, he knows the businesses. We thought about an idea at a table in the front, and we're here tonight, filled it out. And I'm going to tell you, your next corporate event, you should utilize Kosher Castle Cater. It's a great business, it's a family business, it's local, and that's what we do as community bankers at Apple Bank. We truly are here to help You grow and succeed. There's nobody saying in Manhattan, where's our dividend? Or the guy in California that's got a lot of stock. There's no stock. We're a private bank. Where's our dividend? Not happening. Can we help you grow? Can we help you succeed? Can you give us sponsorship to help great organizations like Rbbn? That organization, these guys volunteer their time. No one's taking any money, not happening. They have a great speaker. When Yankee heard of Mr. Bodick speaking, he was so thrilled just to hear the speaker. And we made it happen, talking on Main Street, helping each other in business, helping our families. And that's what it's all about. I'm John Crisafulli. I've been in banking 30 years. I love to eat. I'm also Johnny C. the Pizza Guy. I'm New Jersey's original and official pizza critic, and Dave, gluten-free Johnny C. now, and Dave Portnoy follows me. Let's get that clear.
Good evening. It's a real honor to be here. And in truth, I love rooms like this. I love professional networking events. And sometimes it can be a funny thing, right? Everyone walks in looking calm and confident. But inside, many of us are thinking, who do I know? Who should I know? And
Hold it closer. Sorry.
is a person walking over to meet me, or are they looking for the food behind me? And then we say the classic line, we should definitely connect. Sometimes that means that was meaningful. Other times that means, I hope LinkedIn is going to take it from here. But the reason a room like these matter is because everyone came believing in something. They believe there's a new idea waiting. There's a new opportunity they might discover. There's a new relationship that they can build with a person. But tonight I want to ask a question. Are you ready to show up? So this story happened to me a while ago. I'm pulling up to my parking spot in the garage at my office. A nice stranger gets out of his truck, walks over to me, and says, "Hakol beseder? Is everything okay?" And of course, he was being kind, and I appreciate it. But I smiled to myself because he didn't realize that he is the opening act to my next talk. In that moment, he saw one part of my life and wondered, can he manage? That happens quickly. People see a situation, they see a person, they see something in life, and they quickly think they understand the whole picture. They see a challenge and they assume they know the person's abilities. But the bigger danger is not what we perceive about other people, it's about the stories that we tell ourselves. We look at one setback, we look at one failure, we start building a whole story around it. Some of us build castles around it. Exactly. Hopefully not that type of castle. This is why we cannot try. This is what we tell ourselves. This is why I cannot grow. This is why that opportunity is not for me. Sometimes the story becomes more limiting than the actual limitation. That is part of the reason I accepted this invitation. Because the opposite of showing up is hiding. When I was a little kid, working my way through healing from an illness, my mother noticed something very painful. She saw parents from the community bringing their children to the doctor's office for treatments, and some were hiding them. In one case, she shared a cab with another mother from a hospital visit to New York City back to Brooklyn. The woman actually took out a brown paper bag and covered the head of the child. And it wasn't that the woman, of course, the mother didn't love her child. Of course, she loved her child. She was scared. She was embarrassed. She was worried about the stigma, worried about what other people would know, right? We always know about what's happening in other people's lives, like what they would know about their kid, and what that would mean to their child as the child would be growing up later in life. Now, of course, I'm not telling the story to criticize that person or anyone else that has challenges. Right, the frightened mother is not a bad mother. And definitely that's not what I'm trying to say. But it raises a very hard question. At what point does hiding stop protecting us and start limiting us? Many years later, my wife, who is a teacher for the visually impaired, a TVI, sees a very similar version of that story today. Some families hesitate to accept services that can help a child struggling with blindness or other visual impairments. Not because the services wouldn't help, because accepting help makes the challenge visible. I understand that fear, but I shudder to think what I would be if my mother would have hidden me. Thank God she did not. My parents did not teach me that my wheelchair was my whole story. They did not make it the definition of who I am, but they also did not pretend that it was nothing, right? It's not a sidebar, it's definitely a big part of my story. My wheelchair is part of my life. It helps me get to where I need to get to, Baruch Hashem, to very amazing and interesting places. It is not the it is not the definition of my destination. It is part of the equipment I use to get there. That distinction shaped my life. I went on the same yellow bus as my friends. I went to the same Talmud Torahs as the rest of my neighbors did. We played, I got into trouble, I got kicked out of class, just like the rest of them did. But I was raised as part of regular life, with a twist, maybe, but fully in it. And this is not only a childhood lesson, it's a business lesson. In business, hiding often sounds very professional. I'm not ready. They won't take me seriously. Someone else is more qualified. I don't want to look like a clown. And so we hide. We don't step up to the plate. We don't show up. Sometimes we call it being realistic is what we tell ourselves, right? Let's be real about it. We can't try and fake it. We got to be real about it. But really, we are afraid to try. Some years ago, I was referred to two very successful business owners to discuss some investment opportunities. This is something that I was involved in some years ago. And as far as I knew, I'd never met these individuals. I knew their names. If I'd mentioned the name, I think many of you would recognize who they are. But I had never met with them previously. I showed up on time. I came prepared. Somebody had referred me, so I knew what the conversation was about, what their concern is. And as I entered the room, I sensed immediately that one of them was feeling uncomfortable. He didn't say anything inappropriate, right? He was respectful, but as you go on in business, you learn to read people, you learn to read a room, you get to see what the energy is, what the vibe is, like what sort of eye contact people make with you or they don't make, their body language and so on. I could almost feel the question, what is this guy in the wheelchair going to teach me? That's what I felt. I knew I was not there to sell wheelchairs. It's not what I do. Within about 60 to 90 seconds, something shifted. The conversation became about what mattered to them, right? The strategy, the opportunity of the investment, the value comparison to maybe other opportunities that they were exploring. And once we were in that conversation, it was as if the wheelchair magically disappeared. Because I was not there to talk about my wheelchair. I was there to talk business. And I had something to contribute. The meeting taught me something very important. While we cannot control every assumption people make in the first 5 seconds when they see us, we can control the next 5 minutes. We can prepare. We can know our craft, right? If we know what we're good at, we come in with confidence. We can listen for the need in the room. We can listen to what people are trying to solve. We can bring value. Sometimes we want people to understand us before we perform, but often the way they come to understand us is by us delivering value, by us bringing value to them. That is one way of showing up. Being prepared, being useful and present. There's another kind of showing up, especially in business. It is being alert enough to notice opportunity when it does not look like opportunity. A relative of mine, I'll call him Libby for this story, who sells medical supplies, who has a special needs child, and on one of the legal holidays, he had to take him to a day program outside of Brooklyn to Queens. They had transportation planned, but in the last minute, the transportation failed to show up. So Libby got into the car, drove his kid to Queens for the program. Now, he made a very simple calculation. If his kid's going to be at the program for about 3 or 4 hours, it doesn't make sense to go back and forth, so he decided to wait around. Now, most people in that situation, they would think to themselves, I'm stuck. And they'd probably be right to think of it that way. But Libby asked, what can I do? What can I do? Since I'm here, what opportunity might be available to me in this point in time? He noticed an office building nearby. He went inside, checked the board of the tenants in the building, and realized that there's a medical vendor of some sort. He figured, let me try and make my way up there. While he's in the elevator, some of the building was pretty empty because it was an illegal holiday. The person asked him, what are you looking for? He said, I'm looking for this ABC, whatever, medical reseller. And the person tells him, well, that's my business. And just like that, a conversation began. A possible new relationship started. I did call him, actually he called me earlier today. I told him he's going to be in my story tonight. And I asked him whatever happened with the person in Queens. He said the conversation is still continuing, which is a good sign. But on a regular day, right, there probably would have been gatekeepers to somebody like that. He might never had gotten the opportunity to meet with that person. But because the schedule was disrupted, because he was somewhere he didn't plan to be, and because he was willing to look around and show up, a door opened. That is the business lesson. Now, there's nothing very fancy about this story, I get it. But it's just the mindset of, if something doesn't go as planned, right? Sometimes opportunity looks like an inconvenience. Sometimes an opportunity is a delay. Sometimes an opportunity is a change of schedule, a conversation that you did not expect. You can't control every gatekeeper, delay, or assumption, but you can control whether you're alert, prepared to show up and be in the game. So that is why I prefer, and I touched on this a moment ago, that is why I prefer face it till you make it over fake it until you make it. And right, do not fake confidence, face the conversation. Do not fake certainty, face the next step. Do not fake perfection, face the reality in front of you. Like, what is it that I'm dealing with, and how can I go about rising to that occasion? How can I go to attacking that opportunity, even with the set of circumstances that I'm challenged with? The things we hide from the world, we often hide from help, and the things we hide from help can cost us growth. There's a question I once asked one of my sons as they were graduating Talmud Torah and getting ready to go to yeshiva. So I asked one of them, right, if you had two options, one of them is a more challenging but more rewarding environment, it's going to be more demanding. The other one is a little more laid back, it might be easier, but I don't know that you're going to become very smart in that place. And I told him before he answered, I said, when something seems difficult, do you try because you may end up being successful, or do you give up before the hard work and the good thing that can come with it, a chance? Like, do you give it a chance? His answer was simple. First, one needs to try. And when I heard that, I knew that he's ready to take on a more demanding environment. And Baruch Hashem, many years later, it's worked out very well. But of course, the lesson is, before you try, fear gets to write the story. Before you try, embarrassment gets a vote. Before you try, you can convince yourself that you already know everything. You may know the challenge, the risk, and the discomfort, but you do not know what could happen if you actually show up. So let's go back to the parking garage. All right, Hakol V'Seder, is everything okay? The honest answer is, not always. Life is not perfect, business is not perfect, families are not always perfect, people are not perfect, I'm not perfect, but hiding does not make imperfect things perfect. It just makes them smaller. Before you count yourself out, ask, have I actually tried? Before you decide the door is closed, ask, have I knocked? And before you leave the room tonight, ask yourself, where in my life am I standing just outside the game? Maybe it's a relationship, a business idea, a follow-up call, a difficult conversation, a service your child needs, and a friend that you can help, an opportunity you've already talked yourself out of. Whatever it is, do not let the story stop you before you try. Life does not ask us to show up perfect. It asks us to show up honestly, prepared, humble, being able to deliver value, and with courage. and awake to the possibility. So when the moment comes, the question will be, are you ready to show up? Thank you.